Hi, this is Ed with Solomon's Landscape and Design. We're out here today on a warm March day in Greenville, South Carolina. We're out here doing some plants. I know we had a frost this morning, and so that kind of hampered us a little bit. We warmed up by digging a bunch of holes and let the plants sit. You can plant this time of year, even when it frosts. There are some plants that are a little tender that can't take the frost, but for the most part they're usually pretty good as long as you don't plant the root ball while frozen, because if you do, it will not thaw for quite a while and could cause damage. So the biggest thing is just making sure before you put the plant in the ground that the root ball is thawed out, and go from there. But anyways, today I decided to go ahead and show you kind of some of the stages on how to put plants in the ground properly. And so I'm kind of going around. We got different stations set up, make it a little easier for us. And if I can figure out how to turn this thing around. Uh-oh. Anyhow, technical difficulty, so I'll do it this way. So this first stage here, this is a plant that is on the ground, sort of staged where we want it. And typically when we plant anything, before you start, you kind of get your layout first, and that's what this is supposed to represent. And then as you go ahead and dig the hole, you want to do what they say about two times width of the root ball, or basically if you take the diameter of the plant, you come around about half of the size of the plant, and you come around with a shovel about half that width around kind of where my foot is here. Now, thanks, Robert. So kind of right in this area here, and kind of outline that. Today we're working with mulch and already on the ground, so we've had to kind of pull that back so we can cover up our mess later. So now we're going on to the second round here, and this is kind of what the hole looks like. It's probably not the best hole I've ever seen, but it'll work. It kind of looks like something my Uncle Robert would dig, but that's okay, it'll work. As long as it's wide enough, then that should be fine, and it looks like it is wide enough for the plant to fit in there. What you see at the bottom there is just a little mixture that we like to mix up for our plants, and essentially it's just mushroom compost and a little bit of permatill. And you can see here it's two separate bags that we have. The mushroom compost, one bag of mushroom compost and one bag of permatill. And what the permatill does is it's just basically a slate product that has microscopic holes in it that help hold moisture and retain moisture. As well, it helps with drainage, because it is a slate product, so it'll help with drainage and compaction. We can't find that too many places around here in Greenville, South Carolina, but you can, if you are more interested in that product, you can go to Permatill, PERMATILL.com, and they have a website you can find out more about that product. But we do like to use that in our product, or in our plantings, and you see it there in the ground. So here we're going to another stage here. We've already got our mix in the bottom of the hole. You see we got some here in our backfill. Wanted to let you know, and when you get a potted plant, a lot of times what happens is the plants get root bound, and you see a little bit of that going on here. And what Robert's doing is kind of pulling that apart and separating the roots, because what happens is if you don't separate the roots, they'll continue going in that circle. Once they hit the edge of that pot, they kind of circle around. So if you don't break that up, what's going to happen is they'll just continue going in that circle and never reach out as far as it should. So kind of give Robert a hand here. You don't have to be too delicate on most of these plants. Now, there are a few plants that are delicate, but generally speaking, you can go in there and I say tear it up. So you can put a little bit of force in there and not have to worry about it too much. Like I said, there are some tender plants that don't like it too much, especially when they're smaller. And so just kind of loosening those roots up, so you can kind of see how they're loosened up a little bit, so they can now grow out instead of around. And so Robert will now set the plant in the ground here and give him a second to strain. Looks like don't let that plant hit you in the head.
See which one says this side.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, that'll work. And so now you see the plant in the ground. There's some space around the root ball, and that is for your backfill. And like I said, we also have that mixture that we like to use in there as well. On any type of plant, when you do put it in the ground, you want to try to line it up, straighten it up as best you can. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Here's a prime example. We have a plant that was, I guess, blocked by another plant, because they typically grow them side by side, and sometimes what happens is they cannot get it out of whack. So this plant here is as straight as we can get it, but the trunk is actually a little bit crooked. I know it's hard to see, but you can see it leaning slightly there, hopefully. And so that happens. And so at this stage here, when you do put it in the ground, you'll notice we try to leave it a little high. So you see a little bit of the root ball here. Typically I like to do about 2 inches, leave the root ball about 2 inches above the ground, the finished grade. And the reason behind that is because you don't want to plant the tree or the plant too deep in the ground. If you do, it could cause issues long term. And so from that point, we actually have another tree here that we just finished. And you see we covered that up with mulch. And so we took that 2 extra bit of space, and basically that 2 inches represents the mulch. And so that mulch will come up to the line there, and so you don't see the root ball. If I pull this back, you see it there. Again, we covered up with mulch right to the top of the plant, essentially. You can put a little tiny bit of mulch on top, but generally speaking, I typically try not to. But again, just to kind of keep it from getting too far in the ground, because that's actually more harmful to the plant than anything else. So, hope that helps. This is Ed with Solomon's Landscape and Design. We do, like I said, mushroom compost as well as permatill, and you can find permatill at permatill.com, and you can also visit Clemson Horticulture Extension at clemson.edu/extension, and you click on the HIGC link to take you to the Home and Garden Information Center. Thank you very much for your time, and you have a great day.